Okay, at 6 o'clock, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Mayor Breeden.
Here.
Mr. Maurer.
Here.
Mr. Thomas.
Here.
For the last time. I'm going to miss you. Mr. Martin.
Here.
Ms. Stevens.
Here.
All present. We have a quorum.
Okay, approval of the agenda, please.
So moved. Second.
Please vote. Five ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is public comment.
Nope. Oh.
I'm sorry, it is not. Most important thing, the pledge. I'd like to lead us in the pledge if you'll all stand, please. And Councilman will do the invocation. So please repeat with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Shall we remain standing as we pray? Father, we thank you for tonight. We thank you for the men and the women that make this community what it is, the greatness of it that draws people from near and far. We thank you for the hearts of the people. We thank you for the hearts of those that serve in so many different capacities that distribute their love throughout this community. We call this community blessed. We call those that serve this community blessed, that this will always remain the apple of your eye. In Jesus' name, we thank you. Amen.
Amen. Please be seated. Now is the time for public comment. Persons wishing to address the council on matters that are within the council's jurisdiction and do not already appear on the agenda may do so at this time. Pursuant to the Brown Act, the City Council may not take action on an item that does not appear on the agenda. Speakers are limited to 5 minutes. Public comment section of the agenda is limited to a total of 1 hour. Each speaker is asked to provide his or her name. Thank you.
Pat Ferris. I thought I just ought to pass this on because last weekend we had Santa's Art Shop, and probably between 6,000 and 7,000 people went through our gate. The vendors for this show just keep reiterating about what a wonderful community this is. I thought I ought to pass it on. They keep saying, we can't believe how friendly everybody in this community is. People are so nice here. We just love coming here. Can't believe the vibes I get when I come here. Just had to pass that on because you're setting yourselves apart. People notice. So just thought you ought to know that those kind of remarks and compliments are coming back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And we all accept on behalf of the entire community because it takes all of us to make that happen. So thank you, Pat. Is there anyone else? Okay, seeing no other public comment.
One more.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please.
Good evening, members of the council and the people of the city of Ridgecrest. I'm Christina Salm. This is my daughter, Abigail. My daughter is an aspiring actress and model, and currently has a role in the miniseries that's being filmed up at Robbers Roost Ranch. We're here to ask for support from our community. I'll let my daughter elaborate on that.
Hello, I'm Abigail, and as my mom said, I'm hoping to become an actress and a model. I recently participated in a regional selection for acting and modeling and singing in Bakersfield, and I was selected to be one of 220 nationwide participants to attend a national convention in Los Angeles in January. I am the daughter of a military veteran and a single parent, and my mom does her best to support me. I'm hoping that I'm hoping that with your support I can have the chance to fulfill my dreams and represent this community in the entertainment industry.
Thank you.
Thank you. What is it you are looking for? I mean, I'm not sure. Support, are you looking for monetary support? Are you looking for great job? Because clearly it's a great job and a difficult one. I'm not sure what you're looking. So help me help define that.
We, in order to participate in this national convention in January, it costs about $3,000. So far, we've raised about $1,600 of that. So, if anybody is willing to help us fund for her to participate for that, that would be greatly accepted.
Okay, thank you. What a courageous effort. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
I'm direct everybody.
Do you have a website, or how do people get in touch with you?
We don't have a website, but I can give you my phone number, and anybody who's interested in showing their support can give me a call anytime, and I can give you information from there.
I would just imagine that, especially if the paper were covering it, that the public, if they want to help, they need to know what. I don't know if you want to put your number out in the press, but you have to have some kind of way for people.
Yes, sir. I did actually have a newspaper article. I want to say about a month ago, thanking the police department. They helped donate about half of what we needed for our funding. Okay. So there was an article put out. I did put my phone number in there. Okay. But I can do that again as well.
If you would just give Rika the number,
that'd be great.
Sure.
That way, if anybody wants it.
Sure.
Because I don't want it out to the public for everybody unless
Yes.
you choose to do it that way. Okay?
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Yes, my congratulations to the young lady for her effort to come and speak in front of the public. I know it's nerve-wracking. I suggest you come up here more and get a little more public speaking practice. Also, you can do a GoFundMe account, and I'm sure Mrs. Ferris would be glad to advertise that if you get it set up. That works pretty well. So, okay, Council. As far as what I have to say tonight, let me give you just a touch of background of some things I've addressed in the past. Last council meeting, I addressed issues of conflict of interest. Had to do specifically with avoiding the appearance of impropriety. Now, along those lines, I'd like you to take a look at an article that was published in the News Review recently. Now we're going to move your trip hazard up here. Okay, so I guess you may find yourself wondering why I'm handing you this article with this picture in it, because the facts now are public because of this article that our city manager, Ron Strand, is noted as the son-in-law of this gentleman who recently passed away. At the same time, noted also that our city clerk, Rick Charlon, is the daughter of the gentleman, I believe it's Dan Rivers. That means we have a city manager whose employee is his sister-in-law. I don't know if anybody thinks there's anything somewhat questionable about that or not. if I was head of a department, I don't really think I'd want my sister-in-law working under me. I think I would be worried about some consternation on the part of other employees as far as favoritism in a public position, basically, such as city manager. I'd also be worried about the appearance to the public of that. So I hope that the council will consider this on the part of your employee. You only have 2 employees. They're both sitting to your right. The rest are under the city manager, and he needs to be viewed, I think, by the public and his other employees as being able to be totally impartial and fair in his actions and his decisions. So I'll leave that with you to consider.
Thank you, sir. Is there any other public comment? Okay. Then the next item is council announcements. Is there any council announcements? I'd like to say one thing. I said something at the Democratic Club that was taken as a rebuke to Councilwoman Stevens. It was not. I simply said that I didn't feel like we had gotten all the information when the decision was made. But after the decision was made, I support it, and I thank Lindsay for doing that. So anyone who took it that way, because one other council person came to me and said they thought I had said something inappropriate. My apologies if it was taken that way. It was not. I didn't think that you were the be-all and end-all of all the information. So thank you, and my apologies. The next thing I would like to say is I have something I'd like to hand out. Got this yesterday from the Naval Weapons Center. I'm going to read it very, very briefly. That they have a total employment of 5,057 employees, both civilian and military. The industry output is $679 million. The payroll is $503 million. The installation spending in the region of influence is $352 million, and purchases and expenditures are $6 million. Visitors to the Naval Weapons Center. Total visitor days was 171,323. Total visitor days in off-base lodging was 156,169. The estimated direct spending was $25 million. Spending on off-base lodging estimated at $15 million. Spending on local restaurants estimated at $9 million. Spending at local retail stores estimated at $1 million. I'm passing this all out to the council. I would like us all to please understand the impact we have, and I'm going to hold one up here for Councilman Heyman too, the impact they have on us and we have on them. And in looking at this, there is a a synopsis of what's on the back, which is pretty amazing when you look at NAW's contribution to the regional economy of fiscal year 2017 includes $1.2 billion, with a B, billion dollars. I'm not saying that this is extraordinary. I think it's more than extraordinary. The fact that they are coming here, they have come here. People have spent dollars and contributed to this community, and I'm very proud to be a part of a community that has a base that's looking to work with us as we look to work with them. So I invite you, I know we have extra copies, so I invite you to look at it because it was pretty interesting. Okay, the next item is under discussion and other action items. Proposed action to adopt a resolution of the Ridgecrest City Council reciting the facts of the consolidated general municipal election held on Tuesday, November 6, 2018, declaring the results and such other matters as provided by law. Mrs. Sharlon?
Yesterday, I received the certification results from the county. I have a copy for each of you up here, and there's a few copies up on the counter. And I will fill those numbers into the resolution. And if you guys will just make a motion to approve the resolution, we're good to move forward.
Thank you.
So move.
Second.
Any discussion? Okay.
Please
I'll
vote.
vote.
Five
Eddie.
Five ayes, motion carries.
Sorry, I was going to make fun of Eddie for not voting no. Okay. All right, if you'll all join me up at the podium, please.
Yes. You can. You can say it now. Yeah. Okay.
I'd like to read this to Eddie and to the city, but come on up here, sir.
No.
Because I know we want to make this proclamation, but we also want to speak to you personally, each of us do. So, whereas Eddie Thomas was elected and appointed to serve on the Ridgecrest City Council and installed on December 3rd, 2014, and whereas Eddie was selected by fellow council members to serve as vice mayor in 2016, and whereas Eddie started his time with the city when he was selected to serve on the original Measure L committee in 2012 and continued throughout his tenure, giving generously of his time in various other city committees and organizations vital to this community. And whereas since moving to this community, he has been an avid supporter of local schools, businesses, and infrastructure needs within the community. And whereas Eddie has worked tirelessly to continue to create new laws and policies that support improved local government and that help local officials provide better service to our community. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed, the City of Ridgecrest and the City Council does hereby honor, recognize, and extend our appreciations to Eddie B. Thomas for his devotion and exceptional service to this community and for his dedication to the City of Ridgecrest as a City Council member and Vice Mayor, proclaimed by all of us on December 5th, 2018. I want to hug. This man is beyond generous, is beyond wise, is beyond caring. He listens, he cares, and he does. It's okay to talk, and that's important, but he carries it out, and I'm very proud to be able to call you friend. Thank you. Thank you. Others?
I never knew Eddie until we both got elected 4 years ago, and I really enjoyed serving with you the last 4 years, sitting next to you. We have a little game we play as to trying to decide how long the meeting's going to go, and he wins most of them. So anyway, we put times back and forth. So, Eddie, I'm going to miss you.
Thank you. I'll miss you too, sir.
So I always give him a hard time because he helps talk me into doing this, and so I always liked to tease him that he was abandoning me. But I really enjoyed serving with him, and I'm going to miss you.
I thought I was real busy when I started in 2016 with 2 jobs with the federal government full-time, and then the city has become full-time, and until I found out that Eddie has a full-time federal job and a full-time city job, and then he's a pastor on top of that, so Eddie has 3.5 full-time jobs. So I don't know how you juggle. I've always been amazed at that, but he seems to do a great job at balancing all 3. Eddie's been a calming force on the council. His charm, his wit, his beautiful prayers have lent a real sense of balance, I think, and I have really, really enjoyed that, and I thank you for the time and that you've done with all the devotionals, in addition, again, to everything else that you do. Eddie's always generous. He's always got a smile, and a lot of times we don't smile up here. It's kind of serious stuff, but for all of you who do know, offline, Eddie's a fabulous laugher, and we have had many fabulous big-time laugh sessions, and I hope that we can keep we can do that. That doesn't have to go away. And he became honorable when, I guess officially, when he came on board, and we had a little joke about the first day. I said, Eddie, are there any perks to this job? Just joking with him at a committee meeting, and Eddie said, well, I don't know. And he thought for 15 minutes, and he said, well, you're honorable. And I said, what? He said, well, I said, Eddie, well, you're honorable. That's why I ran for office. He said, no. You're honorable now. I said, what am I doing with that? He said, well, you put it on a letterhead or something. Oh, for heaven's sake, Eddie. So anyway, Eddie, you were honorable before, you were honorable then, and you will always be honorable. So there you go. You get to take your title into wherever life takes you now. Anyway, I told Eddie one time that I loved his tie. Eddie's the best dresser. I'm sorry, Mike, but we lose. Eddie dresses beautifully. And so I'm always complimenting Eddie on his outfits. And one day I said, Eddie, that is a beautiful tie. I like the tie. He took it off right there on the spot, undid his button, and handed me his tie. I said, no, Eddie, put that on. That's ridiculous. He said, no. I said, no, it's yours now. So I treasure that tie, and I'm going to keep that tie and wear that tie with pride. So, Eddie, we're going to miss you. I think you've enjoyed working with you. All right, buddy. All right. Thank
you. You can say it wherever you feel most comfortable.
Say it right there, Eddie. Okay. That's the best spot.
All right. Believe me, I wrote this 5 times, and in the 5 times I wrote this, it's gotten shorter. So it's only out of Mr. Neal, out of all people. No, it's only 2 minutes and 30 seconds. I promise you. And I wanted to say, first of all, to my wife, my family, thank you for your support, for coming, enduring. I love you. I thank you for almost 35 years of marriage, and in that time you've been my number one supporter, and I appreciate that. And to my daughter, thank you as well for coming. I also wanted to say to Mr. Heyman that you are joining a great, awesome team, and I know they're chomping at the bits to run you over through the mill. And they're a good group of men and women. I didn't have as many battle wounds as I do, but it was worth every one of them. So I'm so glad that you are joining this great team, and congratulations, sir. The other things I wanted to say is I'm leaving here tonight with a wealth of knowledge that I will always treasure. Serving here has been a fantastic learning experience, and that I'm thankful for the skills I've acquired. I feel as if serving here with you all for each 4 years have made me more complete and well-rounded person. I've learned how to take directions. I've learned how to take criticism and even compliments. These are 3 things I wasn't so great at before taking this job. And now I feel as though I can apply those great learning experiences in my life, so much so that I can be a more complete person. The most important component that I've learned in these 4 years are to be open-minded, to value other people's opinion, and to consider other ideals from every person. Being a part of this great team, our mayor, our vice mayor, our pro mayor, and these 2 great councilmen, and even the city manager and as I tease him so often, Mr. Lloyd, my covering. Thank you for allowing me to be a part of this team, because it has taught me great skills that would help me in my professional life. Because when you're on a team, you have at times to learn how to lead, to follow, and more often than not, meet in the middle. In closing, my prayer for Ridgecrest is that we will continue to experience success, that you have fulfilled everything that you can do, and to have nothing but pleasant results with each completed project. While that may be overly an enthusiastic wish, it is a sincere wish. I really believe that David had it right in the form of a prayer that is recorded in Psalm 17:8, where it says, keep me, and I added this word, keep Ridgecrest as the apple of my eye. Hide Ridgecrest under the shadows of thy mighty wings. It's been a pleasure serving those that have voted for me and those that did not. And I would truly miss working with this outstanding council, Mr. Martin, Mrs. Stevenson, Mr. Maurer, and Mrs. Breeden. Staff that have covered me and made me who I am today. I will always have fond memories that will last me for a lifetime. Thank you so much.
Make it easy for church.
Oh, Lord. Oh, wow.
You're going to take it off.
Look what I told you. See what I told you? Look what I told you.
You must have a lot of time.
See, I told you he'd do what he does.
Appreciate it. Been good to me. Now can I go there? Oh, I'll go after the swear.
Yeah, that way you can say, hand him the seat.
Madam Mayor, may a word. Discussion item, public comment. Congratulations, Mr. Thomas. You finished 4 years. You did it with honor. You, I believe, earned respect for the council on the part of the public. If you can get through 4 years and not take some big shots about decisions, I think you're doing well. Either that or you're a good diplomat, or a combination of both. Also, I'd like to congratulate you, as is a rare thing to hear these days. In 35 years of marriage, like to hear a lot more reports of people making it that far in their marital relation. You've managed to do that also. That doesn't have anything to do with your council position, but I think it has a lot to do with your character. You started, I believe, first time I saw you around here was Measure V committee. And the first committee, the very tumultuous committee, very active. There were some interesting times at those committee meetings, and you were an adept chairman. Sometimes I wondered, what you were maybe up to, maybe not up to. But the even keel on your part was a good thing for that. I think you probably learned a lot to go into council from that particular experience. So. Thank you for your service. And by the way, I really like your shoes.
Be careful, Mike.
Okay, that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
I'm glad nobody complimented you on your pants. Brenda? Well, I wasn't going to suggest you do anything about it. You're welcome. Okay, the next item. Nominations to the appointment of Mayor Pro Tem and Vice Mayor.
Do we do the...
Oh, ma'am, we skipped one.
Oh, Lord, I'm trying to get through this. Sorry, my apologies. Go ahead. Who has got this?
The administration and presentation of certificate of elections and the oath of office to the newly elected officials will be me. If I could have Mayor Breeden, Mr. Maurer, and Mr. Heyman join me up here at the podium. Y'all just step up to the mic here. I'll stand over here.
No way. But thank you.
We're going to do this all at the same time. Raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Peggy Breeden,
Do solemnly affirm
do solemnly affirm
that I will support and defend
that I will support and defend
the Constitution of the United States
the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California
and the Constitution of the State of California
against against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
against all enemies, foreign and domestic,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance
I will bear true faith and allegiance
to the Constitution of the United States
to the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of California,
and the Constitution of the State of California,
that I take this obligation freely
that I take this obligation freely
without any mental reservation
without any mental reservations
or purpose of evasion,
or purpose of evasion,
and that I will well and faithfully
that I will well and faithfully
discharge the duties
discharge the duties
upon which I'm about to enter.
upon which I am about to enter.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. I gotta figure out who I am.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Come join us. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll get you guys copies.
Eddie, you can come down to your meeting and see the chair.
Madam Mayor, short comment, if I may.
Okay.
On the, I'll give it a second here. Okay. Just as a note, in the handout, I didn't notice anyone else but myself pick up the handout with the vote totals. However, I looked at that and did a calculation here on my calculator, and I noticed that Mr. Heyman was the top vote getter over the four-year incumbent, Mr. Maurer. He actually got 30% more votes than Mr. Maurer. In my mind, that says a lot about what he stood for and how many people in this town wanted someone with his stance, namely a stance not particularly in favor of the casino. So, along those lines, I have one short addition to my comment.
Is that you singing?
I feel good. I knew that I would. So good. So good. I got you.
How about says it, Scott? Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now we are going to the nominations, appointments of Mayor Pro Tem and Vice Mayor. This is mine. I'd like to make a nomination that I nominate Mike Maurer for Mayor Pro Tem. And do we do it as one whole unit, or can I make the second nomination?
Let's do them one at a time.
All right.
So Mayor Pro Tem. Any other nominations?
Any other nominations? I would like to nominate Councilwoman Stevens for Mayor Pro Tem.
Mr. Pilchin, how do we proceed with two nominations?
Why don't we do the first vote on the first nomination and see if that resolves the second one?
Okay. So we will do a roll call vote for Mr. Maurer being nominated. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second that.
Okay, and we'll do a roll call vote. Ms. Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Mr. Martin?
No.
Mr. Heyman?
No.
Mr. Maurer? Aye. 2 ayes, 3 noes. The motion does not carry. So can we have a second for Ms. Stevens?
How do we do that?
I'll second that.
Can I ask a question first? Because I wanted to nominate her for the second position as vice mayor, how do we do that?
If she gets this position, then she wouldn't be nominated for the vice mayor.
Okay. All right.
So I've made a motion for her. Is there a second?
Mr. Heyman seconded it, so we'll do a vote, roll call vote. Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
Aye.
We have 5 ayes, motion carries, where Ms. Stevens will be the mayor pro tem. Now we can open up nominations for the vice mayor.
I nominate Mr. Martin.
I'll second that.
And we'll do a roll call vote for Mr. Martin as vice mayor. Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
No.
4 ayes, 1 no, motion carries.
Okay, so we have that done. Okay, proposed action to approve a resolution providing authorization to award a construction contract to CHL Construction for the construction of Phase 2 sewer improvements at Down Street and Bowman Road, and for the city manager, Ron Strand, to execute the contract. Mr. Culp?
Honorable Mayor, honorable council members, and welcome, Councilman Heyman.
Thank you, sir.
I'm Warren Culp. I'm your city engineer, and I have a little presentation for council tonight. We're trying to award a construction contract to CHI Construction for a little sewer line project. A little background, a little about the project. This is a little sewer line replacement project. It's in the intersection of Bowman Road and South Down Street. What we're trying to do is replace about 227 lineal feet of sewer line there that's kind of in disrepair. It's got a major sag in it, and we're trying to replace that, as well as 2 manholes in the intersection, and abandon 9 manholes along Bowman Road, going easterly along Bowman towards Mahan. So what we have is bids that we let out. We advertised and we opened bids on November 6th. We received 2 bids. In that process, we did advertise quite rigorously, and what we had done is we had solicited actively with 2 local contractors that have qualifications for constructing sewer lines. We also advertised in 3 newspapers. We advertised in each of those twice. And we also had solicited in 6 different construction newsrooms. So we advertised the dickens out of that. And out of that, during the pre-bid meeting, we had 1 contractor show up. And that was Griffith Construction Company that showed up for that. There was a vendor also present at that. But anyway, we did receive 2 bids. And we are asking that the council award the construction bid to CHI Construction. The bid amount is $196,882. We're also asking council to authorize an additional purchase order for 10%, which is the contingency we would like to apply to the project. And we're asking the council for $19,688.20 as a contingency on the project. So with that, Honorable Mayor, our resolution is asking for 5 things. We're asking the council to accept the wrong one. I'm sorry. Excuse me. We're asking the city council to authorize the award of the contract in the amount of $196,882 to CHI Construction for the construction of the improvements. to the sewer line and street as described herein, as the lowest responsible and responsive contractor from the bids received as determined by the engineering department. And we're asking council to authorize an additional contingency in the amount of $19,688.20 or 10%. And we're also asking that you authorize the finance director to amend the budget to reflect all appropriate capital revenue and transfer accounts, and authorize city manager Ron Strand to execute the contract. Honorable Mayor, council members, I'm available if you have any questions.
Council?
I had a couple. Is this the first time we've worked, the CHI, is this one of the first times they bid on a project for us?
Yes, in the time that I've been here, this is the first time I've had that particular construction company bid on a project for us. I might also mention this is a part of Phase 2. That's an important element on this thing. This is Phase 2 of our sewer line replacement, repair, or slip lining program. This is a multi-year program, and this is just one element of the Phase 2 that the wastewater superintendent or wastewater supervisor wanted to tackle first. This is also important to get this project out of the way so that we can do an HSIP project, which is the four-way stop intersection at Bowman and down. So we need to get this done first so we can move on to our HSIP project. So there's other elements to our Phase 2, which we're in the process of implementing, but this is the very first of the Phase 2 projects. Our very first phase, of course, was doing church, replacing the sewer line in church, and doing several slip lining projects throughout the older part of town.
Did you ask, I'm just curious to know, since it's a newer company, how they heard about us and where they're out of, so that way we can note that as a good way, because we got a new person.
I believe they're out of Anaheim, if I recall correctly, but they would have found out. I did not question them on how they found out about our project, but of course, usually our construction newsrooms are the main source for obtaining information about projects out to bid.
And then who did the engineer's estimate?
The engineer's estimate was done by David Evans and Associates. We had them do the engineering design work for us, and their estimate is $139,535.
Thank you.
I would like to understand that our engineer estimate was, I assume you thought it was reasonable, and when they came back and they were 196, it is significantly different. Was there anything involved in that made the difference? Material? What was it just, or was our estimate just too low?
Actually, the mobilization, the tendency for our projects and contractors bidding our projects, usually mobilization, demobilization is a variable that, generally the labor and construction for any task associated with the project, those fall around a range of reasonable cost. The thing that is a factor that can really affect the disparity in bids and an engineer's estimate is what a contractor's costs are going to be to mobilize and demobilize. And that's generally what we see as the real variable that you really have. It's a guessing game as to what the contractors might ask for mobilization, demobilization.
Okay, thank you. Any other council comments?
I do. Bart and I talked a little bit about this too, about increasing the bid process. Really, I'm following up on what Councilwoman Steve. That'd be great to find out. Hey, how'd you hear about us? Maybe we ought to add that on our form. Honest to goodness, everybody else does. How'd you hear? At the end of this thing, a little post follow-up form that we send them, because we really need to know why they turn their head to look at us. That'd be great.
Yeah, I think that'd be easy to accomplish for you.
Okay. No other council questions or comments? Open up to the public. Is there any public who'd like to say anything?
Good evening, Mr. Carlton, City Council. Dave Matthews, address is on file. Mr. Culp, can you say what the bid was from Griffith?
Yes, sir. It was $235,290.
Well, compared to your 139 from the estimate, that's quite a difference. The other thing I was wondering about is you mentioned that there are currently 2 manholes in the intersection. Will one of those be eliminated when the work is done?
There are currently 4 manholes in the intersection. We're completely removing and replacing those 2, and those will be the 2 in which our new sewer line will connect to. There's 2 other existing manholes that will be completely abandoned. We'll be removing them and salvaging the ring and cover sets. And,
I'm just wondering why there's 2 in the intersection.
Yeah, there are 4 manholes. They actually, if you in detail, there's 1 in Vulcan. There's approximately 3 in the intersection of Downs and Bowman. The sewer line that's going to be replaced is actually from Vulcan over towards Bowman Road, crossing.
So there's
Downs.
different laterals coming in. Is that what I'm hearing, or what?
This particular line does not have any laterals, no, sir. It just conveys wastewater from Vulcan over to the existing line that's over and paralleling Bowman Road.
Well, I'm still not understanding why there's multiple manholes.
I can show you. I have a set of plans here. I'd be glad to show you that after
Okay.
I'd be glad to show you.
Okay. Talk to you later.
Thank you, Dave.
Marilyn Neal. Can you tell me what your term sirloin means in this situation? What is that? Sirloin?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that? I didn't quite hear.
Can you explain to us what you talked about your sirloin? What are you talking about, or am I misunderstanding your word? Sewer line.
Oh, I'm
okay,
sorry, did I
excuse
mispronounce?
me. I'm not. I misunderstood you. Forget. Okay, comic relief there.
I'm sorry.
Okay, only other comment is just when the construction happens there, my concern is just that there be very adequate signaling ahead of the construction, because we've had so many problems with Bowman and Downs, that intersection anyway, that people really get a good heads up at a distance that that something else is going on there.
One of the bid items, one of the tasks they were required to bid upon is the traffic control during construction, and so that is a bid item that they're required to bid upon and provide us.
Good, thank you.
Any other public comment? Okay, back to the council. Any comments?
Oh, go ahead.
Yes, I do have one comment. When it comes to the engineer's estimate and the amount of the bids, is there any correlation there or proximity of when those bid amounts are so varied off of the engineer's estimate that we don't look at that bid or those bids? Or
what you typically look at whenever you receive bids is you try to look for disparities, and the one thing that you really want to try to look at is front end loading of a project, where a contractor will have his bids loaded on the front end of the project, where his easy money is the early money. And so you have to look to make sure that he's not front-end loading his project to make sure that...
I understand that aspect of the bidding process.
So that's one item of disparity. You also take a look at mobilization, demobilization, and that's a touchy-feely thing.
I don't question that either. I'm just asking,
dependent upon...
Basically, when the amounts are so far off of the estimate, engineer's estimate, is there a point where you say, that's too far off the estimates, do we need to rebid it, and how much do we pay for the engineer's estimates to get? Because otherwise, it's kind of a moot point to have the engineer's estimate, and if we're paying for that, it's kind of like, well, do you see where I'm coming from there?
Yeah. Well, several things can dictate what contractors bid upon projects. Fuel prices. There's also the marketplace. If the marketplace is, if they're...
I truly understand what you're saying about the estimate.
But yes, there is a point where you have to say, gosh, maybe we ought to rebid this or
right, that's
or
all
think
I'm
about
asking.
the
Is there a
project
point
further.
Where,
there is a point, yes.
50,000
indeed
is kind of like that.
In this case, we felt that in looking at the bids, we didn't find the disparities. We know that the marketplace is contractors are busy, and so we know their market is good. We have a thing in Ridgecrest called the Ridgecrest factor as well. Anything that we do out here, we pay a premium for. People have to come a long ways to do work out here. So you have fuel cost, mobilization, demobilization that will drive costs higher in Ridgecrest than other locations where you have an abundance of contractors that are have short hauls or short travel times.
And I fully understand that. So I guess back to my question is the engineer's estimate. How much do we pay for that?
Well, it was a part of their contract. That's not an independent or a single task that they proposed upon. It was a part and parcel for their design of the project. We asked them for their engineer's cost estimate for the project. So it's encompassed within their contract.
Okay, that was the biggest part of the question. So thank you.
Second, please. I was just going to say that we've done it twice in the last year where we looked at the bids, both the ADA and the Sunland project. We asked council to reject all bids. So there certainly is a point, but if you're saying is it 20% or 30%, there isn't. Okay. Also, one of the things you need to be very careful of is that the best engineer's estimates are based on work that's been previously done in the area. The only sewer work that we've done in Ridgecrest is the Church Street in a very, very long time. So the actual, what you could base your engineer's estimate on has to be based on projects from out of the area. And obviously this time ours was, the bid was higher. So, the more work you get done, the better we'll get an engineer's estimate we'll have the next time because we'll have more to base it on.
Thank you.
That's true. We'll have data as well. We'll be able to utilize this data as a basis for evaluating future projects.
Right. That makes sense.
Is there any other council comment? Okay, is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next item is proposed action to approve a resolution requesting authorization to record final track map 7188 Unit A. And that, sir, is you.
Yes, Honorable Mayor, this is an item before you tonight to seek your approval of final track map for 7188 Unit A. A little history behind this. This map was originally proposed back in December of 2008 before the Planning Commission. It was proposed originally as it's about 14 acres, but they originally proposed it as one subdivision encompassing or totaling a number of 40 lots total as a complete subdivision. It was later brought back before the Planning Commission. I believe it was July of 2010. The developer at that time, which was Emerald Point Development, had requested that the map be phased into 3 separate phases, and that's what we're currently working with now. The map, for whatever reason, was for the phasing was titled as units. However, there's a Unit A and a Unit B and a Unit C rather than phasing by numbers. But in this case, we have Unit A, and this project has satisfied all the conditions of approval for Unit A. They have posted an improvement security a check in the amount of $5,930 for monumentation that needs to be completed. So what we're asking is that the City Council accept the necessary improvement check as the security. We're asking that the city manager to sign the improvement agreement. I believe he already has, by the way, but as a council action to recognize the city manager has signed that agreement. We ask that the council accept the street improvements and the offers of dedication made for the street within Unit A. We're asking you to authorize myself, the city engineer, the city clerk, and the planning commission secretary to sign the final map. And finally, we're asking that you direct the city clerk to record the final tract map, Unit A, with the county recorder's office. I might mention that the council has had a prior action on this. The action was to annex into a lighting landscape maintenance district. So this project is actively in our current lighting landscape maintenance district. So that condition has been satisfied. So with that, I'm available for any questions.
Okay, any questions from council, please? Any questions from the public? Okay, a motion? Or there are no questions, is that correct? At all? Okay. Motion?
Go ahead. No, fine. Okay, I move. No, what? Oh, I'm second. I'm sorry, I didn't hear what you said. Okay. I'll second.
Please vote. We have 5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. Number 7. Mayor Breeden, with the concurrence of the council, will appoint members to the Planning Commission and council committees, boards, and commissions. I have asked all of you where you would like to work, where your interests lie. I've tried to accommodate all your needs, and in taking what your requests were, I'd like to go down through and tell you what I have come up with. I start first with the org committee. Okay, you want to start with the Planning Commission?
If that's okay, I just listed them up there.
Okay. All right. Planning Commission, each council appoints one. Would each one of you like to state who you would like to appoint?
My understanding, I'm keeping my same planning commissioner.
So that's absolutely fine, but we will need a new citizen service application from even reappointments in case information has changed, contact information or emails or anything.
Okay.
And
because she was just appointed within the last 6 months, I think, or so. Okay. All right.
Whatever works, but yeah, that's generally how we've done it in the past, is just to have everybody fill out a brand new application, so we have current information. So, and it's fine to reappoint if you've talked to them and they're good with doing it. Move forward, and we'll get the applications before they attend their first meeting.
Okay. Wallace?
I'm proud to re-announce Bill Ferris Jr. as my planning commissioner, and he is accepted.
I have asked Salman Rajaratnam to continue, and he has agreed too.
I have asked Derek Mackey to be the Planning Commission appointment, and he has accepted.
Okay, are you asking us to vote individually on all these then, or how would you like us to do it?
We need Mr. Mowers still.
I'm reappointing
I'm sorry.
Warren Cox, and he's accepted.
All right, now my inappropriate question now. How would you like us to do
Can
that,
we just
please?
move on all of them?
Yeah, we can just move on all of them at the same time, so we'll just go through the list.
Okay. The Personnel Appeals Board. Let's start at this end.
Do we need to vote?
No, we'll do it at the end on all of them.
Oh.
Okay. Personnel Appeals Board.
So, I did not realize that I needed to recheck with each of my appointments because I thought we had told them at the beginning that they would be good for 4 years. So I'm assuming that all of mine are still good.
Well,
Okay, my appointment to the personnel, Diana Eggleton has re-accepted to continue. And I'll get another application for her.
They can just email them to me if that's
That'd be
easiest.
great, sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine was Janice Bodorf, and she has agreed.
Okay.
No appointments at this time.
And I have no appointment this time.
Okay. Construction Appeals Board. Let's start this way and go down this way this time.
I have no appointments at this time.
No appointments at this time either.
I asked Mike Ferguson, and he agreed.
I don't have a person yet.
Okay.
I'm assuming mine's still good.
Okay. Handicap Appeals Board. Mike?
I have nobody at this time.
I have no one at this time either.
Okay.
I asked Ginny DeAngelis, and she has agreed to serve.
And I asked Ryan Smith to re-up, and he said that he would be delighted to.
And then, again,
Same.
Ryan thinks you're going to appoint him again.
yeah,
Okay,
I
but you-
figured, like I said, I didn't tell them
Okay.
differently. I thought that it was for the
Okay.
4 years when I appointed them, so
Okay.
I haven't had any one of them tell me they're done, so.
Okay. Okay. Measure V Advisory Committee. Each council member appoints one. Let's go down this way.
I've
Mike.
always thought that when we appointed them for 4 years. Is that wrong?
So, per the ordinance, when the committee was first formed, it was formed with 2 at 2 years, 2 at 3 years, and 1 at 4 years. And then as you replaced them, they were appointed for 4 years as replacements. That way we would have staggered appointments. But because we have 5 brand-new committee members that are needed for Measure V, we just need to basically start over so that we have staggered appointments.
So we have no carryovers on May?
We
no
have
carryovers.
one. Ted Bolton.
Well, his term is expired.
His
Even
term
though
is
he'll continue
expired,
service,
but he
said
wants
he'll
to continue
yeah.
to serve.
And Mr. Heyman had been mine, but in your packet, Charles Rowland Sr. has agreed to serve as my Measure V appointment.
Does anybody else have appointments?
I have a tentative appointment. He shows great interest in it. He has spoke with one of the other committee members on Measure V, and he would like to sit in on the first meeting. So he's going to do that and then give me a final commitment.
Okay.
But if we don't have 3 people?
I'll have to look at applicants and see. I don't have anybody to appoint this time.
So I haven't taken any applications because I wasn't aware that you didn't have appointments. So I can put out an advertisement, and when I get some applications, get them to you.
To be honest with you, I don't remember who I appointed. I appointed someone that applied. Is that on this sheet you gave us?
It is on the
Yeah.
back page.
Yeah.
You had Nellavon on there.
Yes.
Does she still want to serve?
I don't know.
It's on. I just wasn't close enough.
You can certainly speak with her and see if she's
Yeah,
still
I will
interested.
see. I will check with Della Vaughn and see if she still wants to stay on.
Okay.
And Rick, I told you that I didn't realize that Sharon would prefer not. So I'll have someone else.
Okay.
I'll appoint someone else.
And Mayor Breeden?
Ted Bolton
Ted, thank you.
has agreed to continue to serve.
Okay. We can move on.
Right.
Do we just want to do this page? Go ahead and.
I think that we should, Rick, rather than vote for the whole thing. I think we ought to vote. You know, we can do 2 or 3 at a time, but
Vote on this page?
Yeah,
Like she
yeah,
suggested?
yeah.
Okay. Give me 1 second.
So is there a motion to approve 1, 2, 3, 4, 5?
Yeah.
Second.
So we'll do a roll call vote. Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries on the Planning Commission, Personnel Appeals, Construction Appeals, Handicap Appeals, and the Measure V, and we'll move forward. Next slide.
Okay, the Action Committee, let me see. I have no one who is asked to serve on that.
This is the council committees. This is where you guys choose which
Right.
one among you will.
Right.
Okay.
But I asked everyone, and no one chose to serve on that.
Sorry. I'm willing to stay on. I had said it only meets twice a year, so.
Okay. Anyone else interested?
And to my knowledge, Action previously didn't have planning commissioners show up, so.
Does it show it on here?
It's.
No, it's blacked out under planning.
Yeah,
It
there
does say
wasn't
2 planning
anybody.
commissioners, but it's blacked out, so it's just contradictory, so I just need to change the words.
Okay.
All right, Lindsay, if you need somebody, I will serve on that with you.
Okay.
Okay.
All right, RACVB, I had asked Wallace if he was interested in continuing to serve. He is, and his alternate last year was Jason Patton. And is there anybody else who would like to serve on that in lieu of Wallace? Or in lieu of his alternate? Okay. Okay, Veterans Advisory Committee. That was, I believe it was you and me, Wallace, who served that last year. I would, unless anyone else would really like to serve.
I'm willing to continue to be with you.
Okay. All right.
Peggy is the mayor is the appointment and Wallace is the alternate?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, Kerncog. Mr. Maurer is serving on that right now, and he asked to continue to serve. And his alternate was Wallace, and they both agreed.
Okay.
Is there anybody else who would like to do that instead or in lieu of?
No.
Okay, we have that. So you want to approve these 4?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We can make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Ms. Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Maurer.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes for the Action Committee, RACVB, Veterans Advisory, and Kerncog.
Okay. Navy Community Council. Wallace, you and I served on that last year. Is there anybody else who would be interested in doing it instead? Okay.
So it'll be mayor and then Mr. Martin as alternate, okay?
Okay, IWB Groundwater, I served last year. Mr. Maurer was the alternate. I had originally asked Councilman Heyman if he would be the alternate, and he had said he did not wish to be. Is that correct, sir?
Not the alternate, but at this point, I would like to say that I am very interested in the water issues that are facing our community, and water is the primary issue that I ran in my campaign when I was running for city council, and so at this time, I would like to volunteer to serve as the lead representative for the city council for the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority.
Okay, we have 2. Is there any others? Okay, the Youth Advisory Council.
Finance.
Before we move on, are we going to put Mr. Heyman as primary and you as secondary, or how did you want to do that?
Let's vote. Well, let me determine where we're going to go with this first, please, Mike. What is the procedure?
Mr. Neal, we ask you to please wait until the meeting is open for public comment.
You're going to vote here, and you're not going to allow public comment. That's improper.
Public comment is not on the agenda for this item.
This is a discussion item, sir. Always public comment on that.
Discussion among the council.
Now you twist it this time. It's always been public comment during discussion and action items, and that's what this is.
I can't speak for the past, but I can say that the mayor has not opened the meeting up for public comment.
Will she open it up at this time?
Can we get through how we're going to do this before we take public comment?
Are you going
Can
to
I
vote?
ask direction from our attorney, please? How is the procedure for doing this?
Public comment is not required for
No,
this
I
item.
mean to vote on this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is it two separate? Is one yes, one no? How does it go? Please?
Okay, so for which item are we talking about?
For the
which
groundwater.
position? For groundwater. And we're talking about the primary and
two
the
nominees,
alternate?
two volunteers for the primary.
Oh, there's two volunteers for the primary. So
Yes.
let's have a motion for one of them and take a vote on that
Okay.
and see if it passes.
Okay, well then let's do Navy Community first. Is there anybody who has any problem with that?
No. I move approval of Navy Community Council.
Second.
Are we just going aye?
Mayor Breeden.
Aye.
Ms.
Aye.
Stevens.
Aye.
Mr. Martin.
Aye.
Mr. Heyman.
Aye.
Mr. Maurer.
Aye.
We have 5 ayes for Navy Community Council. We'll move
Okay.
on to groundwater.
Groundwater. Okay, we have 2 nominees for chair.
Do we want to take public comment
I'm
before we
gonna-
make
I was-
motions?
I
Or
was going to say that.
okay.
Okay, we have 2 nominees for chair, both Scott Heyman and myself. And since we are asking for public comment, is it appropriate to open it this time, Lloyd?
You may, absolutely.
Thank you. All right, public comment. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor Breeden. I'd just like to say that I support Mr. Heyman for the chair of the seat on the Indian Wells Valley Groundwater Authority. I think we need new blood on that group. I've personally seen what I would view as too much on the side getting together of primary members of the Groundwater Authority Board. I personally witnessed Mayor Breeden and Mr. Brown, along with the current city manager, who was also the general manager of the Groundwater Board, along with the hydrologist of the Groundwater Board, and other persons at dinner together, and have been told numerous occasions that those types of meetings between the several members of the Groundwater Authority are pretty regular. So that does not make me feel comfortable about the partiality of the impartiality of what goes on in the meetings when this kind of getting together is a regular thing between board members. So I think we need some new blood on that board. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
David Janis, 40-year resident, also executive director for the China Lake Alliance, which obviously is concerned with the base, improving and retaining the base and the community. And you're aware we've worked on some things that have supported water over this year. I'm also, in full disclosure, I'm not here as a PAC member, Policy Advisory Committee for the GA, but I serve on the GA and have been serving in that role for over a year. I've been to all the water meetings, the GA meetings, all of the PAC meetings with one exception, and most of the TAC meetings, and I've seen the mayor at almost every one of those. Water's critical to the base, and it's critical to the valley. This is the number one issue we face, and I appreciate that Councilman Heyman ran on that issue because it is the number one issue we face. You heard the value that the base provides to this community economically in the brochure that was just completed. The 2017 study that we've been waiting for was roughly $1.2 billion but economic impact in the valley. Over the last 2 years, workload at China Lake has increased 10% each year. At the same time, they're going through record attrition. This year, there are 2 huge decisions the Department of Defense is going to make. Where they are going to site F-35 work, which is going to be the biggest work we ever had come to this valley if it does. Second item is the new space agency. If that goes through, and it's in discussion right now, we are being considered, China Lake is being considered for a role in that. That will also increase. It is critical to us. We are 12 months away from a GSP being due. We formed this groundwater authority, 5-person board. We've gotten up and moving. We are now in the draft GSP section. On board, we have gotten a water rights lawyer, one of the premier ones in the state, that is currently working on putting together some of the alternative scenarios that will be presented very soon. And we are working with a consultant on relationships with the DWP, which is really the most critical and potentially viable method we have to wheel water and get additional water in this basin. And that's all undergone with the current leadership of the GA. Now, it's a real complex issue, water technically, very technical. Our water basin is one of the most studied in the state, and yet we still don't understand it entirely. Socially, politically, it's huge because of work we have to do in Sacramento and Washington, LADWP, Kern County, some of the other counties, and they're dealing with this and are actually in some worse shape than we are. But it requires knowledge and it requires relationships that have been established. This is a tipping point right now, 12 months away from the GSP. I'm not sure, and I respect very much what I've seen of Councilman Heyman with regards to your intelligence, your demeanor, your ability to participate in something like this. I really support that. What I would recommend is in light of the fact that they also had an election that affected this over at the Water District. Both the primary and the secondary representatives at the Water District are no longer with the Water District. So next Monday night, they're going to elect a brand new rep. At the last meeting, San Bernardino replaced their rep. So right now we have 2 of the 5 are vacant or brand new and do not have the history, the relationships, the knowledge in depth of the basin technically, the relationships I've talked about at the various levels. And I didn't mention into staff, et cetera. What we're looking at here is we know we're going to have a new one for the GA, and they take over leadership next month in January. To switch horses right now and put 3 of the 5 being new and having to come up to speed very quickly at this critical juncture, and two of the big 3, the big 3 being the Water District, the county, and the city. Those are the ones that set the agenda. 2 of the 3 would be new. My recommendation to you all in this, from my involvement and understanding, is I think Mr. Heyman has the capability to be your rep, but I would suggest a year's worth of OJT is much better than taking over with the new folk in there and making it 2 out of 3 on the big 5, 3 out of 5 overall. And my strong recommendation, because I've seen the mayor at all these meetings, I've spoken with the mayor about this, we've worked on this together. We don't always see eye to eye. But I trust her honesty, her integrity, and her knowledge and relationships that she has formed. And I think this is really critical at this juncture. And my recommendation would be to keep the mayor as your representative and point Councilman Heyman as your alternate and come up to speed very quickly. I think you would. But it took me several months to get up to speed going to all those meetings, and I have an engineering background. Thank you. Thanks for letting me go over.
Dave, I have a question. Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Why did the 2 people get voted out? Did their time expire, or did they get voted out?
No, they didn't get enough votes, and
they were voted out.
You can make a lot of conjecture as to why. Mr. Brown, and part of it is the contentiousness of water. Unfortunately, Mr. Brown had the most knowledge in this valley on that board and the most contacts in Sacramento already set up to do some of the political parts that we're going to have to work on when we put the plan together. There is a lot of give and take, and there could be legislative things that we have to work on. Sacramento is watching this GA, and they have been very impressed so far. Many people would be surprised to know that, but they have said that publicly. They're watching us very closely. They're hoping we can serve as a model for others. So thanks for your consideration. I know this is serious. It is the number one thing in the valley. I'm strongly urging you to make a 2-person team out of it and let Councilman Heyman get very much up to speed. And if you did that, I would hope that you did stay closely involved with it, because if the primary is not able to be there, I haven't seen the seconds on any of these, be up to speed when they're on the dais. I'm sorry to say that. It's a difficult problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Ma'am?
Marilyn Neal. I'd just like to say that I realize that this particular issue is very critical because the board is critical, water is critical. But I think, and I understand the complexity of this issue, but I think what really is critical is to have someone, have representatives throughout this board who see the Constitution and their oath to the Constitution, both the state and federal Constitution, and the rights of the people as being the most critical issue. I have had huge issues with this particular board, this GSA board, from the very beginning because it is an unelected body. And I believe that from the very beginning, we had people who, they're all concerned about water. Who isn't? But it has appeared from the very beginning that there's an agenda much bigger than just how much water we have down here underground in our local area. And I personally believe that we need to have some new blood on there that perhaps after a lot of work has been done here can step back and take a look and say, okay, is this really the direction we want to go? And what is really to the best interest of the people of Ridgecrest? That's what any representative from this council would be tasked with doing, not what's best for the state, what's best for somebody else's agenda, but what is best and what's constitutional for the citizens of Ridgecrest. And because of that, I think we need some new blood. I support Dr. Heyman as representative on this GSA board. Thank you.
Thank you. Sir?
Evening, Council. Scott Miller. My address is on file. I'd like to say ditto to the gentleman who spoke first. As Mr. Heyman, you're going to have your plate full trying to catch up to what's been going on in the city. Mayor Breeden, you've been serving on that board, I believe, for a year or so. Trying to switch horses in mid-race, I'm not sure would be the best use of resources. So, Council, I would urge you to continue as it was as Mayor Breeden as the primary and Dr. Heyman, as a secondary. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment?
Good evening, Council. My name's Elaine Mead, and I would like to say that, like a lot of people in this room, I have attended water meetings since they've been started on this GSA. So I have a little history with that. I think that Councilman Heyman would do a great job. Not to say that Peggy hasn't, but I think maybe we need a new perspective. Somebody that might look at the same issues with different eyes, different frame of mind, and give a different perspective so that maybe something that hasn't been said, that hasn't been looked at, could be viewed. And that's my opinion on Mr. Heyman and Mrs. Breeden for the GA rep. I think Peggy would be great as a second person to help Scott get up to speed. Although in talking with him, I think he's not very far behind, and I think he'd do a great job. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any other public comment? Okay, council comment.
I would like to move exactly in following up with what Ms. Mead said. I would like to make a motion, if I can, for Dr. Heyman to be the lead, and if you wish to serve as the alternate, I think you've done a fine job. But I'd like to make that motion.
I would like to be able to address that before we do that, if anybody has any objections.
No.
Okay. I have served 2 terms on the Indian Wells Valley Water District. I have attended every water district meeting that was not a committee meeting since 1982. I have been at most of the committee meetings that the water district had until recently when I became mayor and was not able to attend all their committee meetings, just some of them. I have been all over the state listening to what people say about water, recognizing where we are, recognizing what we have to do. And the only issue we have is sustainability. We must achieve sustainability. That is our mission. And unless we understand the impacts of that, and I'm not saying you don't, sir, because I think you will, but I am positive nobody can come in, even as much studying as you've done, and understand all the implications. I've been at meetings on the base. I've talked to the admirals, both. I have not talked to the latest. I have not talked to him. I've talked to all the captains. I understand what they want, what they see. I've discussed at the water district and understand what they want and what they need. But more importantly, it's what does the city need? The city needs to be able to be part of the decision making as as we come to the idea of how we solve this issue. It is not simply water in, water out. And in talking to the State Department of Water Resources, they understand that. They understand that we have significant water in storage in the basin, and to put draconian measures on the people until we recognize how we're going to deal with anywhere from 2.5 to 5 million acre feet in storage is not something we can just simply throw out and say. We have water in Inyo County that may or may not be able to be taken, but it isn't going to be taken just, hi, it's ours, we want you to give it up. It's a complicated negotiation. It may happen, it may not. And I think it's important we recognize I have been friends and colleagues with many people on the Department of Water Resources. I have talked to them. I've had the base commander say, the base admiral say, you tell me what we want. When you got the plan, you tell us what we need. What the GSA wants. And when we got the plan, we'll help you sell it to the base. To the State Department of Water Resources. Now, when I say sell it, that isn't, I want to negotiate. What I want is our ability to understand that water is simply not in and out. And unless we recognize the value of that water in storage, the water that is coming off the Sierra Nevadas, and the water that is going to be used or potentially used by coastal geothermal, how do we work together? I have talked to the supervisor from Inyo County for hours. I've talked to Mr. Harrington, who is now going to be leaving Inyo County for a very long period of time. We understand how it's going to work. It's going to take compromise. It's going to take solutions, and recognize that everybody has a stake. I went to Mr. Heyman and said, please, let's work together. I am not going to serve more than 2 years. I want to do my term, and I want somebody who's going to come up to speed and be there and say, I can do it. I'm going to come up after 2 years, and I will be the chair with the approval of the council. We must continue this. We must find a way where we don't recognize we are not the sole source of all the information. It is a collaborative partnership, both with the TAC and the PAC. I have attended every single meeting of the TAC and PAC. I know what they want, I know where they're going, and I understand how we can get there jointly as a collaborative effort. Sir, I beg you, And I said I wasn't going to beg you, but I beg you to work together because this is what's best for the community. To not come in totally new, to not come in totally uninformed, which I do not believe you are, sir. You and I have discussed water for hours. I think the first time we talked for probably 2.5 hours. When I asked you, have you discussed water with anybody this long? His answer was, no, only you. But I know other water people have talked to you. We need to work together. I will make sure you are always up to speed. I will make sure that you know there isn't anything you don't know. And if I know it, you know it. We will be a good team working together, and I want to continue that. My end.
We have a motion on the floor from Mr. Martin.
In light of receiving about a half dozen or so emails in support of Dr. Heyman, and I think talking with people in the public, I'd like to second the motion.
We have a motion on the floor for Mr. Heyman to be primary and Ms. Breeden to be secondary. Mayor Breeden?
No.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
No.
3 ayes, 2 noes, motion carries.
Thank you all. Youth Advisory Council.
Finance.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
No,
was
Youth
doing
Advisory.
on the screen.
Oh, I was just going by the list here.
Yeah, I'm sorry, they're listed.
Okay,
there.
Youth Advisory Council. Mr. Martin asked to serve on that. No one else has asked. Is there anyone who's interested?
I currently have been helping them and just help them with the event that they had before the lighting committee, and I'd be happy to currently stay on.
Okay. All right. So let's just do this one all by itself.
Okay. So moved.
Second.
We're voting on Youth Advisory
I
for...
understand that, but
It was Mr. Martin and myself for Youth Advisory.
how come it's blacked out for the second one?
I don't know, because I think this form was
We currently
not
have 2
updated.
people seated for
Yeah.
that, so that should be 2.
It's confusing me.
Because this
Yes,
form
I'm
doesn't,
sorry.
it doesn't
It's
have
blacked out.
economic development on it either, the Economic Development Committee.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we'll add that at the bottom, or when we get to it on the screen, and I'll write it in.
Okay.
Okay, so are we voting on this then?
Yes, we have
Okay.
a first and a second. So Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay, the next set. Civilian and Military Affairs. I have served on that, and Wallace has been my alternate. Is there anybody else who would be willing or want to serve on that? Okay. Then let's go to the next one. East Kern Air Pollution Control District. Eddie served on that, and I asked Mike if he would be interested in serving on that. They meet the second Thursday of every month. They meet here by video at City Hall and at 2 o'clock. And Mike said he was willing to serve. Is anybody else willing or wants to serve? Okay, then we will take that. Quad State Local Government Authority. I have nobody who has volunteered for that. And it was after Steve resigned from that, we had no other person serving.
I thought that was what Mr. Holloway had filled out an application to serve for.
He was doing it just as his own member of the public and reporting to us when he could. He wasn't actually serving as an appointment from you guys.
Oh, okay. I thought that he had filled out the application. We
He did.
voted on it. Okay.
He did, but we didn't vote on it, so he was just doing it as a...
'Cause he was
member
just
of the
doing
public.
And he doesn't want to continue doing that, or
Yeah.
do we know?
I
Okay.
didn't reach out to him.
All right, so let's wait and see if we get any applicants for that.
Okay.
Okay, League of California Cities. Wallace is serving currently. He said he was willing to serve again. And Lindsay said she wasn't interested in serving again if anybody else wanted to serve. And Scott, I understand you were interested in serving. Wasn't that on your list?
No.
Okay. All right. Is there anyone willing to serve as an alternate on that?
I think I had been serving as the alternate.
You had.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she had.
So do we normally have 3 people for that?
I will be completely honest and say that I put that on there accidentally, I believe, so
Okay.
it should be 2.
Okay. No problem.
Yeah,
I was
it's been
just-
2.
We've only had just
Yeah,
two.
it's been 2.
Okay.
Okay, is there anybody else interested in serving other than Wallace and Lindsay? Are you saying yes, you'd be willing to be the alternate?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So let's vote on all these.
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. Next one. Right now, we have Sharon Giroux serving on that as our representative, and she has agreed to continue to serve. Is there anyone else who is interested in serving? Okay. We'll leave that one then. The Infrastructure Committee, both Mike and Lindsay asked to continue to serve on that. Is there anyone else who is interested? Okay. Economic Development Committee. I have made this change. Wallace, you suggested to me that we make some changes on the committee, and I've made a change on this, and hoping that you all will agree with it. I would like to serve with Lindsay on the Economic Development Committee. The reason I wanted to tell you is that I also serve on East Kern EDC Economic Development Committee. I also am, as the swap sheet, on the China Lake Alliance and the IWV EDC. I would like to coordinate more closely with all those groups together with Lindsay as our chair doing that. We have our planning commissioners who also serve on that, and I would like to nominate both Lindsay and myself. Is there anyone else who would like to serve on that? Okay.
Well, if I'm understanding this correctly, I'm not. I would like to continue serving as with Ms. Stevens on that committee.
Okay. Well, then let's do a vote.
So let's go back to the first 2 and do those together, and then we'll vote on the economic development. So for Roundtable, Road, and Infrastructure, Mr. Maurer and Ms. Stevens, can I have a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
I agree. Yes. Thank you.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay. Now in the Economic Development Committee, how do you wish to do this? We both agree on Lindsay, so we all agree on Lindsay. Do I understand that? Okay, so the only question is whether Wallace or I will serve on that committee. Is there a nomination?
I nominate Mayor Breeden.
Is there a second? I second that.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
No.
Mr. Martin?
No.
Mr. Heyman?
No.
Mr. Maurer?
Aye.
We have 2 ayes, 3 noes. Motion does not
Okay.
carry.
Thank you. All right, the next one.
Do we want to
Committees?
make a motion for Mr. Martin before we
Oh,
move
I'm
on?
sorry, yes.
Uh,
Well,
so-
since
Well,
it's
I
mute,
guess
isn't it? Or do
so-
we need to vote?
So moved.
I think we should probably vote.
Okay.
Okay.
So moved. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Ms. Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
No.
We have 4 ayes, 1 no. Motion carries.
Okay, the next committees. City Organ Services. Mike and I served on that. I had asked Mike if he would continue to serve, and Wallace had asked to serve on that. We'll go ahead and let that go as that, unless someone else would like to serve.
Sorry. So who did you say?
Mike and Wallace.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Parks and Rec, quality of life.
So I had a quick question because I saw it says include Senior Advisory Council and Arts Council, but I have never heard of them meeting.
You'd have to ask Jason about that. I don't know why that's included on there. I just assumed it was part of the committee because it's always been on there.
Okay.
So you'd
I
have
was
to
just
ask
curious
him
because I was like, I've never known that was part of that before and never heard of them meeting. So.
You'd have to ask Jason Patton.
Okay.
Okay, so I had asked, Scott said he was interested in serving that, and Lindsay asked for the same thing. Is anybody else interested? Okay. Finance Committee. Lindsay and Scott both asked to serve on that.
No, I said that I would step down off that if someone else wanted to serve.
Oh, okay. So Scott, you wanted to serve on that, correct?
Correct.
Did I get that? Is there someone else who would?
I've been on that, so.
You want to? Okay, Mike. All right. All right. So it'd be Mike and Scott on the Finance Committee. Is there anybody else who wishes to serve? Okay.
Can we have a motion?
Move approval of these three.
Second.
Mayor Breeden?
Aye.
Ms. Stevens?
Aye.
Mr. Martin?
Aye.
Mr. Heyman?
Aye.
Mr. Maurer?
Aye.
5 ayes, motion carries.
Okay.
So then the only one we have left was the, or did we?
Economic Development? We did.
Oh, we added it.
Okay. Veterans, BLM, East Carnegie C. Okay, it looks like, I think there's some that are mandated by positions, so those are already there.
Yes.
I think I've got all of them. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right.
Can I ask if you could just maybe resend out the service applications
to each of you,
or would it be too hard for you to send it to the people who needed to refill it out? That would be amazing if you could do that. Thank you.
Okay. So we have all that. Now we're coming to committee reports. City Org, I know we did not meet. Finance Committee.
You want to report that?
Yeah, we did.
We did meet.
But we reported it at last week.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I'm sure most of these committees did not meet from 1 week, but let's just go through and make sure. Infrastructure.
Did not meet.
Parks and Rec.
Did not meet.
Youth Advisory.
We just had the tree lighting event last Friday, and the youth did a really great job. It was 2 days before the event. They didn't think they had like 5 people, and I was like, you're going to need about 15 more. And they thankfully showed up and were willing to work, and it was a great event, and we had a lot of community turned out for it, and it was a lot of fun. So,
okay. Good
job, youth.
Okay, the Action Committee I know did not meet. RECVB?
No.
Economic Development.
Next week.
Okay, other committee, boards, or commissions? Did anyone have anything to report?
Excuse me, didn't quality of life meet yesterday?
No.
No, we did not. We did not have a quorum.
All right, other committees, boards, or commissions? Okay, city manager's report?
None at this time.
All right, future agenda items.
Just,
pardon me?
Announce another meeting?
while he's coming up, may I suggest that on the next council agenda that I place the committees again so that we can maybe try and fill some of these vacancies?
Yeah. Please.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, please. I don't know if the papers had it yet or not, but the Desert Advisory Council is meeting in Ridgecrest. I don't know if it's next weekend or the following weekend. I forgot to look up the dates exactly. But that is the BLM Advisory Council meeting for the Desert District, which covers everything from here down to San Diego. So it's rather informative that people attend that. You can find out some stuff that's going on with the BLM, and also they have an opportunity to give their own inputs. So I don't remember, I'm sorry, exactly what the dates are, but it's one of the two following upcoming weekends.
So 14th and 15th.
14th and 15th, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any other on that?
One more.
Please.
Wanted to discuss the January 2nd.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
We are asking for council to cancel the January 2nd meeting because staff will have not been there all week, will not have an item for us. If indeed something comes up that we need to have, our city manager or our staff can call a special meeting and go from there. Anybody have any objections that we cancel that meeting? Okay. All right, mayor and council comments. Anybody?
I just want to make one. Since Mr. Neal takes every opportunity to take shots at me, I just wanted to make a comment. It's interesting. I've run for council 4 times in my life. I came in first the first time, and the second time I came in a real close second. The third time I came in a distant second, as Mr. Neal pointed out this time. I'm sure there's varying factors. He contributes that all to the casino. That may be or it may not be. But one observation I've made, and this is no reflection on Mr. Heyman, because everybody I've talked to has a lot of respect for you, so I don't have any disrespect for you. And I don't know exactly how much you spent during the election, but I spent approximately 21 cents per vote that I got because I only spent $700 for the whole campaign. And by my calculations, just kind of estimating what you spent, I figure you spent about $1.40 per vote. So whether that had any impact on it or not, I don't know. But I know every time Mr. Neal's going to get up, he's going to take shots at me, and I just wanted to share that information.
Thank you. Is there any other council comments? All right, we're going into closed session.
Okay. I have an emergency. I got to go run down to the store real quickly. Could we have a 15-minute break before we start that?
Okay. Thank you all.